Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon, and today we're going to be doing another Sun and Moon deck analysis. This time it's going to be Dragonite. It's a pretty interesting Stage 2 Pokemon with cool lower evolution lines as well, so we think it has quite a bit of potential, and we're going to be going through our list right about now. So we will kick off with 4 Dratini. Dratini is an interesting Pokemon. It's one of these things that has an extra reason to play the deck, a reason to be a little bit more consistent, and sometimes even an out against some of the item locking decks. Its first attack for a single grass energy is Signs of Evolution. It allows you to search your deck for each of one Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite and put them straight to the hand. This is really, really cool. We are using only double Dragon Energy in this deck, so committing a DDE just for this effect may not be used very often, but it can be helpful in the early turns if you imagine that you're going to either survive or it's a matchup where you can be liberal with your double Dragon Energies. And like I say, against Item Lock, it can bail you out if you go second. It can help you try and get into your evolution pieces. Its second attack is just Tail Whip for 10 for a Lightning, and you're never going to really attach Double Dragon to do that because the math isn't that great. So yeah, 4 of those guys. 2 of the Dragonair. Dragonair on its own has been getting a lot of discussion lately because of its attack for a single colorless energy. Dragon Prayer, during your next turn you may attach as many energy cards as you like from your hand to your Pokemon. This current list that we're using right now is going to be using just the new Dragonite, so we will basically never be using Dragon Prayer. The reason why we have a 2 count rather than a more traditional 1 count in the Stage 2 list is because Dratini can tutor them out of the deck. So we may as well have 2 copies, and it means that we can hopefully chain our attackers a little bit more easily. Other than that, it's a pretty standard Stage 1 Pokemon, 90 HP, stuff like that. Nothing too special. So yeah, people are going to build around this attack, but just not in this list, so bear that in mind when you see the rest of the deck. Then we are playing 4 of the new Dragonite to round out the Pokemon line. It has 2 attacks, but really you just ignore the second one because it's 5 energy. It does do 200 damage, but if you flip tails, the attack does nothing. So you really can't afford to do that unless you're going to lose the game, unless you flip that coin. It's really all about its first attack for a Grass and Lightning energy, dealing 130 damage, and then discard a Grass and a Lightning attached to this Pokemon. So a single attachment of a double Dragon energy gets you that attack cost. So just for one attachment, we're doing 130, instantly discarding the DDE to pay the cost of both the discards. So it's a fairly standard, decent amount of output, 2 hitting even GX Pokemon. And really the main things I like about the Dragonite is because it has 160 HP. 160 is a really awkward number for a lot of things. Think about Umbreon. Yveltal will struggle because we're discarding energy off of us anyway. So it's a pretty much clean slate 160 HP Pokemon. It's difficult to get over for a bunch of decks, and that's really why we're trying to build around Dragonite. Even though that discard doesn't sound great, we have enough recycle with this deck, with special charge and puzzles, that it shouldn't hurt us too often, and we should be able to chain attacks fairly consistently, even though we discard 2 energy each turn. Bear in mind, there's nothing stopping you attaching 2 Double Dragon to this guy over the course of turns, and then discard, and then reattach to then discard, so then you're safe from like ends and stuff in future turns, because otherwise that could be potentially an issue, so bear that in mind. Very thick line of Dragonite, it's our only attacker in the deck. Next up, we're playing a 3-2 line of Garbodor. I like having the thick line of Garb, not only because it can help us get into the Garbodor quickly, but it also means that we're, we have more Pokemon on the board, we have space on the bench for this, that we can develop the thick Garb, maintain it throughout the game, and it means it's an extra basic Pokemon, Trubbish, which you're happy to start with. This is pretty much your favorite lead Pokemon because it protects your Dratinis a little bit better on the bench, and it simply doesn't read Shaymin EX, so we won't start Shaymin as often by having the extra third Trubbish. So I really like the thick line. It means that now with 160 HP we can tank even attacks from Volcanion. It means if we go first against item lock decks, we're able to establish Trubbish Floatstone. We should be pretty set for the rest of the game, and it just protects us from a lot of things right now. It's going to really slow down other decks just in general. So Garbodor has been seeing a lot of play, and it's going to continue to see play. Obviously, it's going to protect us from Greninja and also Decidueye, which otherwise would be pretty awkward matchups. To round out the Pokemon, we're just playing 1 Shaymin EX. We're doing the old Philip Schultz thing where he's playing such a thick Garb, that you just want one Shaymin. Additionally, this deck is much better by forcing your opponent to take lots of non-EX KOs, so having multiple Shaymin in the deck doesn't make much sense. We're just playing the one count to round out our Pokemon so that we can still, make Ultra Ball useful and draw us lots of cards, but we don't need to do it more than once quite often. So, onto the items now. We are playing one of Town Map. Because we are playing puzzles, Special Charge, and Double Dragon is so important, we want to have Town Map so we can access all of these things. There's also another crucial one-of, which I'll get onto in a moment, that makes this deck function, but it's only a one-of, so being able to Town Map and find it if it is prized is going to really help us out. The one-of that I'm mentioning is going to be Max Potion. I've said often that a lot of things have to two-hit through Dragonite, and we discard energy off of our own Dragonite, so let's just Max Potion him off and force them back into that awkward spot. Max Potion, attach DDE, attack again. Pretty simple stuff. If we're able to tank hits, this is a very, very good card in the deck. Don't really like having more than one because we have things like Teammates to search it out manually anyway, and we can recycle it with Puzzle of Time regardless, so we only need one physical copy to get full value from this card 1 or 2 times a game, which can sometimes be enough to swing it. We are playing 2 Super Rod. We do still need to recycle the line. It's a very thick line, but we need to make sure that we can keep getting attackers. I like 2 Super Rod. It's just pretty standard, safe stuff. And additionally, 2 Special Charge. Because we're always 2-hit KOing through things and always discarding the energy, we have to recycle this as often as possible. So 2 of these and puzzles, we should be good for the whole game to just keep resetting our energy and make sure we have enough attacks to physically end the game. 2 Level Ball, because it can search out Dratini, Dragonair, and Trubbish. Pretty handy in the early turns so that we can get multiple attackers going. Additionally, 2 Heavy Ball. Heavy Ball can search out Dragonite as well as Garbodor. So those are basically better options, in my opinion, than just running something like Timer Ball. You maybe could try 1 Heavy, 1 Timer if you like flipping coins, but I like guaranteeing. So let's just go for 2 Heavy and 2 Level. That sounds pretty safe to me. Lots of Pokemon Search simply because we have the space and it's important to maintain attackers throughout the game. With a similar theme, we are still playing for Ultra Ball so that we can get into Shaymin as well as any other piece that we need at the time. Pretty handy stuff. From there, we are playing 4 Rare Candies. Rare Candy means that we can go on turn 2 from Dratini straight into Dragonite, and we can start attacking from turn 2. Very simple stuff. That's why we have just the 2 Dragonair and the thick lines of Dratini and Dragonite. Pretty good stuff. Then we are just playing the 4 Puzzle of Time. Puzzle is going to recycle Special Charge quite often, if not directly grabbing double Dragon energies. Additionally, it can grab Max Potion in those turns where it's very helpful, as well as, niche moments when you can get back things like Rare Candy if you just need to have access to it. Because we have Teammates in here, we can grab our puzzles and use them quite effectively with this list. We are then playing 4 VS Seeker to respam our cool supporters, and then we are just playing 3 Floatstone to round out the only tools in the deck, because they go quite nicely onto Garb. We can recycle them again with Puzzle if need be. We don't really need to switch very often in this deck. The only leads that we won't really, or the only Pokemon we need to move will be the Trubbishes and the Shaymin anyway, so it feels pretty safe just having the free float. You just want to have access to it, but it's not that necessary going on to Dragonites. Although they have a huge retreat cost, normally we'd prefer to just try and heal them rather than just retreat them, but who knows, that's still an option for us. We do have a few supporters. I've mentioned a couple of times Teammates. Although we are trying to tank hits and heal, there'll be times when obviously people do get over us, and Teammates means that we can grab things like Rare Candy, things like our evolution pieces, things like double Dragon Energy, which is pretty crucial, as well as, of course, puzzles. So Teammates is a very cool one-of in here. Additionally, it wouldn't be an Omnipoke deck without Misty's Determination. Misty's is one of my favourite supporters to play, and especially in this deck when the whole deck functions off a special energy card. So it completely outclasses something like Skylar, which you might see in other Stage 2 lists, so that you can grab Candy. Misty pretty much does the same thing as Skylar by looking at the top 8 and finding one of those cool cards for your combo. But additionally, it can find special energy, and only Teammates and Misty are able to do that in Standard, so it serves a very good role here to make sure that we can keep digging and keep finding our special energies. We are playing 2 Lysandres. Lysandre means that we can KO Shaymin, which obviously helps out a lot, not only in prize racing, but it means that we can conserve resources. Every single attack is a resource being wasted because we're losing our DC double dragon energy. So we have to be very careful when your opponent is leaving things like Shaymin on the board. It can really help us finish the game a little bit quicker. That's very handy. Additionally, we go for 2 hits most of the time with this deck. So Lysandre finishing something off is also going to be important. We are playing 3N. Just to recycle and stuff like that. Simple things, really. We do have lots of precious things that we don't like discarding. Things like the puzzles and the special charge to a certain extent. So having a high N count is helpful. But we do still play for Professor Sycamore because it's a very good card. And it draws us lots anyway. And with the amount of recycle, nothing should be too painful really to discard. So in a pinch, we still need to Sycamore and draw a bunch of cards. And help us hit double dragons. Because that's what we pretty much need to search every single turn. And speaking of, that's all the energy that we play for double dragon energy. Just by playing the DDEs alone and no other energy gives us a lot of space for all this other cool stuff. And it's just really nice to have that. I feel like playing any basic energy at all would be really, really slow. You never want to be spending your turns attaching a physical grass or a physical lightning because you have to discard 2 each time. So you're making a net loss each turn anyway. So it's way better to just cycle just double dragon. Make sure it gets shuffled back in the deck with special charge, get it back into the hand with puzzle, keep searching it out with teammates, Misty or Sycamore, stuff like that. You should be good to go. So let us know what you think about this deck. I'm not certain that this is going to be a very, very strong deck, but it has been causing issues for a few of the top decks out there right now. Yveltal does struggle with this deck for sure. Whenever we establish Garbodor, we have a chance against the item lockers and stuff like that. So it does pose answers to a lot of decks in the format. Really, the biggest issue is just maintaining the double dragon. There are turns when you whiff, and that's when you start falling behind. These are the biggest issues of the deck, so do bear that in mind. Let me know what you think about the list, any changes that you might make, and let me know what other decks you want to see from Sun and Moon. We're starting to chug through, and soon we should be moving over to PTCGO because the pre-releases are kicking off fairly soon. And, well, at least the time when I'm recording this. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty cool archetype and it can pose a few threats to different decks out there right now. So, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Leave a like to the video if you did, and subscribe to the channel if you've not already. For now, though, it has been Joe from Omnipoke, and I will see you guys next time.